Hello and welcome to Aston Martin Bristol. Today we're going to be focusing on a relationship that started over 61 years ago between an Italian coach builder named Zagato and Aston Martin.
Starting with the DB4 GT Zagato in 1960, Zagato took the stunning DB4 GT and made it lighter and much faster. Limited to only 25 units and with its iconic double bubble roof, open grille and the famous Z emblem, the DB4 became an instant collector's item, and also the start of a great relationship between the two companies. 26 years later, in 1986, the companies teamed up once again to create the Aston Martin V8 Zagato, taking the original car and redesigning the exterior and the interior of the car, squaring the edges and giving the car a completely new look. 52 examples of this car were created and are a very rare sight.
The year was 2002. Just 16 years later, Aston Martin Zagato took Ian Callum's legendary DB7 design and created this, the DB7 Zagato. So we'll start with the colour. Racing Heritage Green, it just works beautifully on the DB7 Zagato. So some of the features that changed from the original DB7 design was the large vaned grille here at the front, Aston Martin Heritage badge, the 5-spoke wheels that are unique to Zagato DB7 that you wouldn't get on the standard car, and the fact that this car wears the famous Z badge. So one thing you'll notice about the DB7 Zagato is it's a lot shorter overall than the standard car, and to do this they've cut off the rear section of the car, so it's quite flat. But also, because of this, they needed some new lights, so the rear lights are separate compared to the standard car in this circular motion. But if we head up the car slightly, you'll notice on the rear glass you have this real tapered glass at the bottom. The reason for this is the double bubble roof that's synonymous with Zagato, and you'll see it on some of the cars that we'll go through later. There's a reason that this was implemented. So Zagato is quite famous with racing, hence the sort of DB4 GT Zagato we spoke about earlier. So with racing you have a helmet, which obviously adds more height to the top of your head. So how do you get around this issue? You add more height to the driver's side and more height to the passenger side. And that's the reason for the double bubble roof. Now to focus on the interior of the DB7. The brown Balmoral leather with a quilted stitch. It looks absolutely gorgeous and complements the exterior perfectly. The Vantage Zagato. The first place you may have seen this is not quite where you would expect. Not at sort of some glamorous villa in the middle of nowhere. No, it was actually on the racetrack. This car competed in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring circuit, placing 5th and 6th in the SP8 class. It's a true born racer from heart. Given a few years later, in 2011, this car was introduced at the Concours d'Elegance, winning the design award, and you can see why. It's absolutely beautiful. Let's delve into this car a little bit more. And what a Vantage Zagato we have to show you today. Produced in its launch colour in Diavolo red, this car is beautiful. So let's start at the front. So similar to the DB7 Zagato, we have this lovely kind of bulging front grille. But what's really special about the grille, and once again, something we'll see when we look towards the Vanquishes, is this Z pattern within the grille, which you wouldn't really know unless you know what you're looking for, but you can see it through the whole grille. A front carbon splitter. A lovely thing as well for Vantage Zagato is it wears the red Aston Martin infill wings, which is only allowed to be used on any Zagato model. Walking towards the side of the car, we have the Zagato special wheels on P0 courses, but also carbon ceramic brakes as standard on this car. And once again, the car wears the famous Z badge, which again we'll see on most of the cars we look at today. So talking about carbon fibre, there's a lot to get through on this car. As well as the car being a full carbon bodied car, there's exposed carbon as well on the headlight infill and the A-pillar, the wing mirror covers, and on the rear here, this beautiful exposed carbon rear light surround, which you can see is perfectly put into the body. And we've also got a lovely carbon fibre rear wing to finish it off. Similar to the DB7, the Vantage Zagato shares a very similar light pattern at the rear of the car. But if you look really closely, you also have this beautiful Z right at the centre. This also shares more with the DB7 Zagato as well. Like I mentioned previously, we also have that famous double bubble roof that sits beautifully at the top. Let's look towards the interior of the car. We'll start with the sill plaques, a bespoke carbon fibre sill plaque specifying the V12 Zagato. What's really phenomenal in this car is the stitching. A mixture of black and red stitching within a wave pattern which carries from the roof lining and the carbon fibre lightweight seats on the car. We've also got the red stitched Zagato logo and embossed in the centre. And we'll look towards the centre console in this 2x2 carbon twill that runs up the centre of the car. We've even got dark chrome rotaries, and what's really special to make this car usable every day is the previous owner has fitted Apple CarPlay, so it runs fully through the system but just works seamlessly. So another great thing about this car is the 1000-watt B&O speaker system that rises up from the dash when the car roars into life. 2016 saw Zagato take their manufacturing levels to new heights. Not to produce one car, not to produce two cars, 4 different variants of the Zagato Vanquish. And we have 3 in front of us at the moment, with 2 very special Speedsters, which I'll get onto in a second. So the first being a Vanquish Coupe, one of 99 models ever produced. This is in the launch colour Lava Red. Now there's many different options on Vanquish Coupe which we can run through in a second, but let's just take a moment to look at it. What a car. So the Vanquish Zagato started life as a Vanquish S. At the heart of the car, a 6-litre V12 producing 595 brake horsepower. And the moment we look at the car, we already see those iconic Zagato cues straight away. So from the Z's within the front grille, the famous Zagato badge with the red infill there. What's really clever on this car is there's no front parking sensors, so how do you get around that? We have a front camera integrated into the front splitter on the car. Moving around, we have the special Zagato wheels. Now this could be ordered in 2 separate types. You could have the Villa d'Este pack relating to where the car was first launched. But this could either be in silver or gold on the side grille and the front wheels. Once again, we had the carbon ceramic brakes as standard on this car and plaque painted calipers sitting behind the wheels there. So this car is a full carbon body, but one thing really stands out to me. If we look towards the rear of the car, there's one thing you'll notice. There's no rear bumper. So the whole panel for the rear quarter is one large panel that wraps around the rear of the car. Now the craftsmanship to do something like this is astounding, but just the beauty to look at is again something else. So if we go towards the rear of the car, we'll notice once again these lights and in circular motion, but this time with a little bit of difference. The blades within the lights, inspired by Vulcan, just make this car something that's completely different to anything we've seen before. So this was the Vanquish Coupe. This is where we started in the Vanquish Zagato family. From there we had a Volante version, which was what we see here with no roof. Next we had a real design pinnacle for Zagato. The first time we've ever produced something like this, the shooting brake. Now this really changed opinions. This made something completely unique and something, like I say, we've never seen before within the Aston lineup. This lovely, large carbon fibre panel, long sloping roof towards the rear of the car and a real squat rear end. This is beautiful. Just 99 of these were produced, but we wish you could have more because we'd love to see a few more of them on the road. So what made the shooting brake separate from the rest? Of course the design of it, which we'll go into in a second, but the first key feature that we'll notice on this car was the wheel design. Zagato itself had a different wheel design from the Vanquish in general, but the shooting brake completely changed it with the wheel as we see here. Now this was available in two different variants, like before, the Villa d'Este pack, which changes the silver accents here to gold, and the side grille was also gold. Coming up the car, on the A-pillar, once again was made of that full carbon fibre that runs all the way, but doesn't stop. It's still one large panel towards the roof. And one thing you'll notice in the centre of this car is this beautiful glass that spreads out towards the front of the car that goes in towards the front windscreen. But this isn't just any standard glass. This has a little special feature which I'll show you when we enter the car. So we're going to focus into the rear of the car. Now, like I said, this is a two-seater configuration, which leaves this long, swooping boot, as we'll show you now. So the interior of this car is in a lovely tan. So here we have the umbrella holding with the tan with the red stitch, and the umbrella sits perfectly within there, and this long rear boot. Now you can get this in two different options. There was a full carbon fibre option with PPF across the top, and a leather coated option. And you'll see as you search into the car, the carbon fibre cross brace into the rear. So what do we think of when we think of Zagato? Beauty and craftsmanship. Let's look towards the boot and I'll show you just what I mean. Even in the bottom side of the boot, the carbon is finished to perfection. If we look at the full 2x2 weave that runs around the whole boot lid. Even if you can't see it, Zagato will make sure it's finished perfectly. So some of the key points of the Zagato interior were the gold rim around the steering wheel, the gold rotaries, and the Z stitching within the seats. And like I say, this is a tan leather with red stitch across the seat with the embossed Z logo there. Now let's talk about that incredibly special roof that you see on the Zagato shooting brake. Now you'll see it's all dimmed to stop the sunlight getting through, but if you like to have a clear sunroof, that's absolutely fine. It's all done at the touch of a button. So we finished this piece in the best way we could, featuring the pinnacle of the Zagato lineup, the Zagato Speedster, one of 28. Well, kind of, one of 28, but we also have a second Speedster right behind us. There's no other place in the world, probably apart from the factory, you'll see two Zagato Speedsters ever again lined up side by side. So one of the key features of the Speedster was there wasn't a retractable roof, there just wasn't a roof at all. Instead, we have this double bubble carbon fibre speed humps at the rear of the car. But don't worry, if it did rain, you were provided with two umbrellas just in case. Towards the interior of the Speedster is this bitter chocolate with Ming blue stitch to match the exterior of the car. But if we look behind the speed humps and behind the front seats, we have a finished carbon fibre panel for storage and luggage to be used for journeys. Now to look to more recent times. Last year, in 2020, was the 60th anniversary of Aston Martin and Zagato. To celebrate this, they released the DB7 and the DB4 GT continuation, a rebirth of that famous car 60 years ago. Now, for the future of Zagato, I'd love to tell you what's coming out, but unfortunately we don't know. But rest assured, we as Aston Martin Bristol cannot wait to find out. Thank you for watching.